All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitics and Money. Yes, I am back here in the States. So just got back in last night. How are you, Elizabeth?
I'm doing great, and we are very happy to have you back.
Well, thank you, because I know I didn't talk to you for a while.
I know. It
So
feels like forever.
it's just crazy. So anyway, we are very, very excited. And as a matter of fact, it was Elizabeth that suggested this topic, and it's a very, very interesting. I'm glad you did that, Elizabeth, because of what's going on the global market, especially
Yes.
now when you consider, of course, I was overseas. I was following what's going on with the U.S. shutdown of the government and how is that impacting, people, families, and so
Oh
forth.
my gosh.
Except
Yeah.
for the military, they kept their pay per
hmm
se. I remember when I was in the government, they did the same. But this is on a much bigger. The one that caught my attention while I was overseas, I heard about Donald Trump's imposing that 100% tariffs on the Chinese.
Right.
And I was talking to some of my contacts over there, and they speak English, of course, and we were chatting as like, what's wrong with this president? And I said, well, we are about to find out.
Yes.
And this is one of the elements, and I'm glad again you brought this up for addressing the rare earth because it's now is going to hinder the
hmm
production of some critical sectors here in the United States. We didn't think this through. We really didn't think this through about these tariffs with the Chinese and so forth.
No,
And
so thank you. Yeah.
yeah,
So the reason this was really important and that I felt like you and I should talk about it
uh-huh.
today, and in a
hmm
second we're going to show what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent actually said about this, and the Chinese Commerce Ministry came back and gave their own statement, and Trump's all
hmm
on Truth Social. But the reality is that this is a really big turning point. This is a turning point in
yeah,
the conversation of the tariffs because China, up until this point, for better or worse, China's been playing it pretty cool. They could have done far worse than they did in terms of retaliation for
hmm
the tariffs that were already imposed and the whole shebang, right? But they haven't. The thing is, during that time, they had actually been planning this. So this rare earth, their rare
yeah,
earth licenses or rare earth controls, but they target specifically military uses,
yeah,
which we'll dive
military
into
grade.
that in a second because that's so important. Because when you look at rare earths, you're looking at the uses for it, right? You're looking at you're looking at microchips, you're looking at
hmm
EVs, but more
hmm
than anything else, the United States is interested in military.
Military, of course. Yeah.
But when the US is basically talking about, like, oh, we're going to go to war with China, what are they not going to be super interested in making sure that we have a whole lot of?
Yeah,
Weapons.
exactly.
So
So,
there are a bunch of different facets to this, but while this has been going on, there were stair steps basically that the Chinese government has been putting this in place actually for months, while this entire tariff situation has been going on.
yeah, yeah,
So we're going to dive into that because this is a lot more complicated than just
yeah,
out of
yeah.
the blue they decided, oh, okay, we're going to do this rare earth thing. China is actually fighting back against
Yeah.
the tariffs. It took them a while to appropriately put the steps in place, but they are
hmm
actually fighting back. And that is a huge thing that I think either the Trump administration and the US as a whole didn't think would happen. And it's not about like one good, one bad, China good, US bad, China good. It's not about that. It's about
No.
understanding what's going on economically on the global stage so that you're prepared for what's happening.
Yeah. And that was the problem. The US wasn't prepared because most of our policies tends to be a short term. When I say
Mhm.
short term, I'm referring to about 4 years. Why
Yeah.
4 years? One is because you have the presidential elections every 4 years. And
Mhm.
second thing, the congressional elections is every 2 years. The system. So the system, the decisions, they are those who said, oh, there are some other things that are long term strategy. Yes, they are, especially in the IC, in the intelligence
Like the
community.
deep
But
state.
yes, but even within the IC, they had to change sometimes because one thing a lot of people do not know is that the IC, the intelligence community, and the White House, they don't see eye to eye on things. They butt in head behind the scenes. But that's
Mhm.
another conversation for another day. Suffice it to say, regarding our topic, what most Americans, which I'm assuming they are starting to find out now through
I think
when
so.
they go to grocery stores, when they go to Walmart, when they go
Right.
to whatever places. But this is, like you mentioned earlier, about a much bigger picture. It has to do with the
Right.
production of weapons. What majority do not know is that the China's dominance in a rare earth metals rather industry, it's significant. And I remember, if you recall, Elizabeth, a few months ago, about 9 months ago, if my memory serves me well, it was one entity reached out to us to do analysis for them, sponsored video regarding the rare earth. It was for a
Yes.
reason.
Yes.
Why did there is one I forgot the exact date, guys. If you can go back to the channel, look it up, you'll see it right there on the title. In any event, what most of us do not understand is that China controls about 70% of the global rare earth mining. And not only that, because China has also over 90% capacity of refining this particular element.
It's the processing.
Yep. Yeah. When you have over 90%, what does it mean? It means that you are controlling the market. The advantage that China has is that you're looking at the involvement of the government through subsidies, the industrial production protection for that. And of course, the key aspects of all this, which we are not doing, is the investments in the supply chain.
Right.
And this leads me to ask the fundamental question regarding this. And we're going to get into it, is now how China's dominance of this rare earth strategy is now reshaping the global supply chain. Whether we like it or not, it's a fact on the ground.
You are absolutely right. It is a flat out fact at this point. And it's almost come across, and I want to show in a second, I want to show the actual clips from Scott Bessent, the Secretary Scott Bessent. And then I also want to show Trump's Truth Social post. And I'd also like to show the response actually from China, because you make a lot of very, very good points. The fact is that China has positioned itself over decades. Like you're talking about, China has positioned itself over decades, not only to provide the rare earths to begin with, but also to process the rare earths, because not all of the rare earths that China processes actually come from China. Now, I want to address this because I remember as a kid, they were talking about, rare earths actually are processed in China because of how toxic the process actually is. The process of refining rare earths used to be very, very toxic, and to some extent still is. Like if you see the people processing it, they've got those like masks on and like all the protective gear because it's a dirty process. And so more or less the criticism was that the Western nations were shipping their polluting industries over to China, which isn't wrong. That is what happens. But over the decades, they built these processes. The big thing that's happening with the United States right now is even if we do get the minerals, even if we do mine minerals literally from the United States or surrounding countries, even if that were to happen, the processing, we don't have the technological processes for them. And not only that, we're not building them. It takes decades to get that. It takes decades to build the facility, to build up the technologies to do that. And that's the thing I'm not watching the Trump administration do. Across the board, I'm not watching them do it. They're not doing it in manufacturing, and they're not doing it in rare earth processing.
There is one pertaining to this particular, and this is why you are noticing right now in the global market. To those who are following this, of course, there is now sort of what's driving the. It was an echo of sort.
Oh yeah, sorry, it's the video, but I don't know why it played.
Okay, at least my hearing is good.
Yes, your hearing is great, David. Your hearing is great.
Good. So, what was I saying? I was saying that this is why we are noticing now some sort of the drive in supply chain diversification around the world. China has been smart about this from way back. It goes back to your point as far as this been in the making for over decades. That means the strategy of it. And this is why you are noticing now that the US and its so-called allies, they're ramping up investments in their own domestic mineral production, with either unilaterally or partnering with other sort of rich countries, if I may use the term.
Right.
But one thing they are forgetting is that the risks and the cost. There is some sort of a cost to building all this. Then there is a second element that has to do with in the West is different because they're going to be dealing with environmental challenges. So this is why, you know what I found out regarding this? I found that the DoD, Department of Defense, is backing now a rare earth magnet producer.
Right.
Which granted it a price floor significantly above market rate to ensure its viability.
Yeah.
So the U.S. government is cutting corners to ensure that, and even with that, they don't have access. And that is where you're gonna now see with this intensifying some sort of a trade war, because China went ahead and put certain type of restrictions. And in my if you ask me, I'll say, you know what? It's within their rights, because we put restrictions regarding the export of chips. They have the right to impose restrictions regarding the access to rare earth minerals. That's to me the way I look at it.
The thing is, it is in the sense that every country has whatever bargaining chips it has.
Yeah.
The United States has the bargaining chip of being a very large market to sell your goods to, right? That is the bargaining chip the United States has. And so that's the bargaining chip it's using. China has a massive bargaining chip in this rare earth realm. They did a very, very smart thing, because being the hub for these rare earths, other countries around the world, number one, can't catch up. That's just a fact. That is not a positive or negative. It's just a fact.
That's true.
They cannot at this moment catch up. That doesn't mean they can't in the future. They might be able to, but they at this moment cannot. And so much of our entire planetary society runs on rare earth minerals. They've positioned themselves to have a very strong bargaining chip. And so they're using the bargaining chip that they have. And the United States doesn't particularly like it, but at the same time, there's something about doing things quietly to build infrastructure before you do the big audacious thing.
That's true.
Of step out and put tariffs in. If you were going to do that, you should have built up the rare earths here first. You should have built up the manufacturing here first before you cut off the supply.
Well, it was
that you need right now.
Yeah, the thinking wasn't there. This is why you are now seeing, and funny that not funny, it's sort of interesting is that now, just between last night as I was flying in, I usually try to figure out exactly the last minute what was going on and so forth. And the first thing in the morning this morning, first thing I did, I had to dig into some a white paper released regarding this topic. So, well, one of them that I found out, which, by the way, when I was flying in, I took with me some reading materials, and interesting how things are worded, and those coming out of think tanks. Those are associated with the Department of Defense. And I was reading, and the same arguments I can make about this particular white paper that I had a chance to read, which basically argue the tenet of its content suggests that what China is doing right now regarding the restrictions is going to backfire on China. I say, I don't think so. I don't think so it's going to backfire on it. Why? Two reasons. First of all, China didn't get into this overnight, which means they had enough time to plan. And second, it's going to be back in this with also the development of its own chips, which will be required for this. And this is why I disagree with the content of this particular analysis that was released or article that was released in Washington yesterday, that this is going to impact China because it intends to reshape the 21st century most critical supply chains. Well, wait a minute. It's not intended to. It's already did. It's
Yeah.
already did. And that's why I don't get it when articles coming out of this way, sort of trying to flip the truth, how it is. It's too late for us to do anything about this now, unless we sit down and negotiate in a good faith with the Chinese. Well, we have no intentions of doing this.
Well, and I think David, to your point, there's the entire tariff policy. When all of this first started, Secretary Bessent came out and said it, Trump said it, that this entire more or less package that they're trying to do, there was going to be pain, right? I think that's how they said something like that, right? That it was going to be a painful transition. And I don't think anybody believed them. And eventually they stopped talking about it. They stopped saying, I haven't heard them say it in a while. But at the very beginning, they made it very clear that for the US population, this was going to be a very rocky, painful transition as they, in their own way, are trying to fix the economy, which, I mean, arguably hasn't worked. But I mean, I guess we'll see in the future whether it's going to work or not. But as of this moment, it is not exactly working. But they did say it was going to be painful. And it's just that they stopped talking about it. And so fundamentally, this is painful for the American population. My husband this morning actually sent me an article that the CEO, I think it's the CEO of one of the crowdfunding sites, said that more and more people are crowdfunding their groceries.
Wow.
And that's shocking, but that is in line with what they said was going to happen at the very beginning. And so there is a way I think this could have been done without the pain, but that isn't the way they chose to do it. And so right now, these policies are wildly unpopular, which is, the point that I was getting to is that these are wildly unpopular policies, and they're wildly unpopular because things suck here. It doesn't matter how good they say the economy is here. When people are crowdsourcing or after paying their groceries, it's not so great. That's just a flat out fact. And so there's a lot of, and if you look under his Truth Social post, which I swear I'll show in a second, I was like blown away with the amount of spam that was on there. I was like, guys, this is very obviously spam. Do you want me to show the video?
Hold on. If I may just address this particular point within what you just stated, because what you just talked about exactly fit within the bigger picture. And what is that big picture? Because if you look at it, guys, just put your analyst hat on and start to think like an analyst. What you're going to be coming up with as far as conclusion is that China's move regarding the rare earth elements, the move they were in by putting these restrictions and so forth, sort of fit perfectly within that context of the US-China sort of rivalry or tensions or whatever. I disagree with those, for example, analysts within think tanks or even some academia that is stating this as a strategic rivalry. No, it's not, because China is not after global dominance. This is where the mistake is. They are portraying this as strategic rivalry for dominance. China has no intentions of dominating the world.
Well, it already has.
Well,
I think China already has dominated the world.
I know, but hold on. It's the wording of it. The wording is misleading, because when you mention the term strategic dominance, that only goes into the sort of the notion of what the United States did after World War II, exactly dominating the world economically by introducing the dollar and so forth. China is not doing that, but they are using the term. In any event, suffice it to say that this particular political and economic sort of tensions between the two, when you think about it, what's at the heart of it? It's not about containers, shipping containers and so forth. What's at the heart of it is the rare earth elements. Why? It's because that's the one that's going to be underpinning the advancements of weapon systems in the 21st century.
Right.
That is exactly where what's at the heart of it. And I just wanted the community to get a clear understanding, because the wording, again, I am reading from the other side and I can see the manipulation intellectually speaking. And I wanted to clarify this for the community to have a better understanding of it.
Well, and I love that you're bringing up, because that's my area of expertise and passion. Is basically manipulation using language, using emotions, using visuals, and you're absolutely right. The way that it is being talked about is certainly very aggressive, and it is trying to push a particular narrative. And I do think that it's been very interesting watching the narrative actually of this story unfold, because you're absolutely right. They're talking about, oh, this came out of nowhere. Like, oh, I don't know why China did this. I can't imagine. We were doing just fine. Everything was perfect. Everything was great. Hey, Calliope, don't bark. Come here. Sorry, guys, my dog is barking.
Tell hi to Calliope. Tell her I say hi. I'll see her soon. I'll see her soon.
Come here. Anyway,
hello to you as well.
Would you like to watch this video while I get my dog?
Sure.
All right, let's put it on.
Okay, I'll come see you tomorrow.
China announced a sweeping expansion of its export controls on rare earth elements and rare earth processing equipment, as well as technologies related to batteries, vehicles, industrial diamonds, and super hard materials. To be clear, this is not just about the United States. These actions, if implemented, would apply to the entire world. China's announcement is nothing more than a global supply chain power grab. While China has taken a number of retaliatory trade actions against the United States, Europe, Canada, Australia, and others in recent years, this move is not proportional retaliation. It is an exercise in economic coercion on every country in the world.
As the president said, we want to help China, not hurt it. If some in the Chinese government want to slow down the global economy through disappointing actions and through economic coercion, the Chinese economy will be hurt the most. And make no mistake, this is China versus the world. They have put these unacceptable export controls on the entire world. China is a command and control economy, and we and our allies will neither be commanded nor controlled. They are a state economy, and we are not going to let a group of bureaucrats in Beijing try to manage the global supply chains. Not only is China fueling Russia's war, but China's actions once again demonstrated the risk of being dependent on them on rare earths, and for that matter, anything. If China wants to be an unreliable partner to the world, then the world will have to decouple. The world does not want to decouple. We want to de-risk. But signals like this are signs of decoupling, which we don't believe China wants. China says that these rare earths are used in military materials and that they want to maintain peace in the world. Again, it is the purchase of Russian oil by China that fuels.
Okay, it stopped.
Oh, did it stop?
Yeah, it froze.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, yes, you get the gist of what happened.
Yeah. First of all, if you stop this one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'm trying.
Yeah. First of all, he's talking nonsense. That just doesn't mean that it just doesn't make any sense that this China is doing this against the world. How does he think the rest of the world see when the United States impose financial sanctions, for example? When the rest of the world see the United States put in, or even the Chinese themselves see how the United States put in restrictions regarding the export of chips. Second thing, what he's talking about with the China central state economy, well, I was there. I saw how that particular approach is working for the Chinese citizens. Let's just be honest about this. I wish the government in Washington does a fraction of, for example, the infrastructure that the Chinese government has put in place for the citizens of the country. Simple as that. So what he's saying, I disagree with it. He's entitled to say whatever he wants, but we all know how American politicians are.
Well, so speaking to that, I did a show on, I think it's going to be released. I think it hasn't been released yet. Oh, can you guys see me?
No, you disappeared. You disappeared.
Oh, no.
But we can hear you. So,
all right, David, keep going for a second.
Okay, I'll take care of this one here. So this is where the idea of this Scott Bessent accusing Beijing of taking, I'm going to use the term he used. He used the term bazooka. You all know what a bazooka is, the weapons. He's saying, China is using it or taking a bazooka to the industrial base of the entire world. No, this all started by the United States, my own country. Let's just be straightforward about it. And I'm not saying something that you guys don't know already. It's just common sense. But when you hear this damn politicians repeating nonsense, is because they are not willing to confront the failure of their own policies they embarked on. Average American here has no idea. Because that average American is thinking about, can I afford to go buy dinner tonight or not? So yes. What these politicians are saying, and Scott Bessent is representing not the American people, he's representing Wall Street. Let's just put things where they belong. This is part of the problem we have in this country, is we are not willing to accept the reality as is. And instead of accepting it and figure out a way to fix it, we kind of shift the blame on the Chinese, shift the blame on whatever country that is.
Absolutely.
That's like today I heard, I had a chance to listen to the former ambassador, Burns. When Burns was in, as a matter of fact, I'm going to share a clip if you allow me for a really, hold on a second here.
Absolutely.
Quickly, because I want you guys to hear it with your own eyes. And I got this one from my dear friend, Dr. Pao Warwick. So, which, by the way, I'll have him here on the channel at some point. So let me just take a look here to show you where it is.
David, it's the Trump social post. No,
that's not the one. Hold on.
Here, it's
I
this
got it.
one.
I got it.
Yeah, you got it? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I got it right there. So let's take a listen quickly here. And I want you guys just...
We've underestimated Chinese power in the world. Those trains are fabulous. We rode those trains. You can go from Beijing to Shanghai in 4.5 hours. And that's, 1,000 kilometers. We have Amtrak's just not like that. If you read a sellout from Boston to New York, but the level of infrastructure, here's the strengths, the infrastructure, that's one strength. Second, their scientific and technological capacity. That's the coin of the realm in our decade, in the next few decades. Which society will turn out more scientists and engineers? Here's a data point. 34% of first-year students in Chinese universities study engineering or a STEM field. The United States of America, 5.6%. And they're a much bigger country. Harvard graduation, where I teach, when we ask our graduate students to stand up as a class, chemistry majors, biology majors, physics majors, largely Asian Americans. Some American citizens, Asians, American citizens of Asian ethnicity or Chinese. Last week, when President Trump gathered all the tech titans of the United States in the White House, tremendous number of those tech titans are Indian Americans and Chinese Americans. We're not competing when it really matters for the future, and that's on technology.
Okay, I'm going to stop this here because we need to...
that was great, though.
I know. That's a former U.S. Ambassador, William Burns.
William Burns.
That was to China. Now, here is where the problem with somebody like him. Because when he was in China, he was not talking like this. Why not? That's, to me, the point. If you are an ambassador of a country, you don't go just to formalities in galas and so forth. You see where the progress of that country, and you figure out a way of how can we learn from that? How can we cooperate? When he was in China, never spoke about that till they leave office too late. And
well, there's a reason.
Well, it's because the political career comes first instead of serving. You are there to serve the country, not a president. And you remember when I went to China, when I wrote the speech, and I said, remember why China is advancing is because the infrastructure. And here it took an ambassador because of his status or whatever to say the same thing, because he was there, he saw. And the idea of why we are not investing in infrastructure is what's going to keep us behind. This is why the policies, to tie it to this rare earth topic here, this is why the policies we are embarking on are nothing but just a window dressing, no more, no less.
I absolutely agree. And what he said was fundamentally spot on. I mean, we encountered this even when I was in college, quite frankly. I graduated from the School of Business. I had my degree is in global business, and I was one of the only American not native, oh my gosh, but American born students there. And that is only exacerbated in medicine, in engineering, in computer sciences. I mean, in the sciences in general. I mean, that's absolutely. He's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. What I want to talk about with it, though, is that this isn't a problem that started right now. This is a problem that started a long, long time ago. I was listening to Professor Wolf, Richard Wolf, and he was talking about what happened after World War II here in the United States. Was several years afterwards, there started to become competition for goods, right? Because after World War II, the United States was a large manufacturing hub. We manufactured cars, we manufactured all kinds of things that the rest of the world purchased. But then, as other countries actually started to build up their own auto manufacturing, their own manufacturing, all of a sudden there was a quality war. And the United States, at that point, there was a large revolution amongst workers to get better pay, better situations. So all of a sudden, the US was no longer competitive in terms of price. And that matters for the rest of the world, because the problem with a reserve currency is that it has to be strong. But the problem with a strong reserve currency is then your manufacturing isn't competitive throughout the rest of the world. It's a catch-22. It's a problem. And so the United States, I guess, picked being the reserve currency, picked having a strong dollar compared to other currencies. But then it shot itself in the foot in terms of manufacturing, because you can't have both. You can't have that strong currency and then sell, your iPhone for $2,000, $10,000, whatever it would cost here. You can't then sell that to the rest of the world. The rest of the world can't buy it.
Yeah.
And so the United States is in a very odd catch-22, but it is handling it the wrong way. A smart thing that China has done is that it kept its currency devalued, and the United States has accused it of keeping its currency devalued, but I don't think that's an accusation. I think that's a really smart move on their part, and that is something that this administration is actively trying to do. This administration is actively trying to devalue the US dollar, which I have an episode coming out about that. It's a whole big thing. But if the US dollar is losing value across the globe, it's on purpose. So
that's why it is. Yeah, that's why it is important to understand that this particular rare earths debate or conversation, if I may use the term. You think about really, really, really how important those sort of 16 or 17 metallic elements that's considered the global. I don't remember the exact number. It's between 16 and 17. I don't remember which one, but anyway, they're considered like indispensable. Indispensable. And that's when you think about, for example, you consider the manufacturing of electric vehicles item, which in China, that's all you see. As a matter of fact, here is the shock, and I wish I would have uploaded. Hold on. I'm going to do it for the community.
Okay.
Because I saved the copy of it to, if I could find it.
While you're doing that, why don't I read the Trump Truth Social post so that everybody kind of knows what we're dealing with here? And then just let me know when you find it.
If I find it. No. Because I could tell just from where I am now. No, anyway, the picture was The picture was a BYD, an SUV BYD in Morocco. Think about it. I never seen a BYD here in the US, in Morocco. But also there is another thing that's going on. I found out it was a Moroccan guy who is now some sort of an engineer in battery stuff. Well, guess where they're going to coordinate? It's going to coordinate with the Chinese, not with the Americans. So
Right.
my point in this, when you think about how important this 16 or 17 elements, from electric vehicles to this, especially now with the AI systems, but the weapon aspects of it, the missile guided systems, that's very crucial. This is where the concern for us, because we don't produce, we don't manufacture stuff here except for those type of weapons that requires those elements from outside.
Yes. So actually, I love that you brought that up, because let's kind of walk through the real world triggers, because this, I'll point to this actually in the Truth Social post that Donald Trump posted. He basically says, let me find it in my tab.
Truth seeker. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yes. So basically he's talking about like, he thought they were doing well. He thought that everything was just fine. So here's where he talks about the 100% tariff on China by November 1st. But I will tell you what, if he puts another 100% tariff on China before Christmas, he is going to be ousted. There is going to be so I think that's something I don't think he's gonna actually follow through with, because people would be so angry. But let's talk through really quickly what the actual things that sort of potentially led up to this. So the U.S. actually has a U.S. Defense Production Act that was in August of 2025. So Trump authorized DPA Title III funding to secure domestic magnet supply chains for hypersonic. So it's very possible that is something that factored into it. So China is watching the United States attempt to not use them. Now, it's at the very beginning stages, but if there's an actual desire to do it, the U.S. will. The U.S. had put its own export restrictions in September, own export restrictions on gallium, germanium, and AI chips, which we know we've talked about the AI chips. So that is the U.S. potentially putting that first as an export restriction. So, hey, we can buy whatever minerals we want from you, but there are restrictions for our minerals going out. The U.S. Navy was contracted for rare earth free propulsion motors. So that's looking at how can the U.S. actually get around using rare earths at all. And then the EU and Japan, who are both strong U.S. allies, which great. I mean, I'm really, sometimes we get accused of not liking the United States or any of that.
I know.
It drives me bananas, because it's not about that. It's about, if there is a problem, you must be honest about what the problem is to even try and fix it. If you keep thinking the problem is something else, you're going to end up shooting yourself in the foot. And I would like for the United States to become a cooperative global partner. I think that would be phenomenal for everyone if that happens. But the US and Japan, or the EU and Japan, made an announcement that they were going to stockpile 3 months worth of critical minerals in case all of this exploded. And then
it will explode. It will explode because we have no other alternatives. And you know why? Because when you think about, did you know what I found out? The percentage of China's investments in Africa? Have any idea where this is going up?
Yeah.
And that is the reason why, because Africa is known for what? There's
rare earth
elements
and people, and also people.
Yeah. And that is where that's why it's we can talk all we want till you invest in the infrastructure for that particular industry, which we are not doing. We're going to be just, spinning the wheel for no reason, or chasing our tail, as the saying goes.
Yes. And then one of the things that was actually addressed when China did respond was that there were Chinese firms that were blacklisted.
Yeah, I
In
remember that.
by and that happened also in September. So they, basically they made a couple of really good points. One
Yeah.
is the military usage. And
Yeah.
quite frankly, that's the United States. I don't know why he talks about, well, it's not really for military. It is for military.
It is for military. Yes.
The narrative, this administration has, not that the Biden administration was also terrible about this, but this administration literally changes the narrative on a regular basis. So first it's about national security, and then wait, it's not about weapons, or first they have the Epstein files, and then oh no, there's nothing to see. Like the continuity of their narrative is insane.
And that's why the statement by Besant about Canada and Australia makes me just wonder how he mentioned those two countries, because two of them, the two countries, Canada and Australia, will not be able to do a squat, if I may pardon my language here, because they can't. Makes you just wonder why Canada will not take stand and say to the US, no, we're going to do business with China as we've always done. Do you guys know the history of Pierre Trudeau, the father of the former Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, his father, Pierre Trudeau, and the relationship he developed with the Chinese, and how's that impacted the Canadian economy? He's the one who opened up Canada to China. So, and for Besant to be mentioned in Canada and Australia, this is, in my opinion, is just a window dressing. Australians, I talk to some, I communicate with some, where things are going in Australia is like, if you ask me 15 years ago, I said, there is no way. It's just how Australian government, and even with the visit of Albo to China, he was nothing but a window dressing, because he doesn't have the gut to say to the Americans, you know what, we still cooperate with you, whatever, but we want to develop our economic relationship with the Chinese. Simple as that. Logistically speaking, it makes more sense. Australia is closer to China than the US. But for Besant to mention these two countries is just as a manipulation, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's how I interpret it.
Well, David, I don't think you're wrong. And I think that what you're alluding to is that there is a political theater, right? It's even called the political theater. And it's called the political theater because it is theater. And so there are the things that the politicians have to say. And, the longer I've been part of this channel, the longer we've been doing this. And
what do you mean? Hold on. What do you mean being a part of the channel? You are the channel.
Okay.
Come on.
Okay, that's a good point.
No. I'm the type that I give credit where credit is due. Just for the record, guys.
I appreciate that.
If Elizabeth wasn't here, there would be no channel. Let's just state the facts as they are. No, you're not part of the channel. You are the channel.
I appreciate that. For 5 years, David, we've been doing this for half a decade. Can you believe more than half a decade? 5 years. I cannot even believe this. But thank you. I really appreciate that. It's been blood, sweat, and tears.
Indeed.
Let me tell you what, for half a decade. But the truth is important. It matters. So it's worth doing. But there's a show that I'm about to do that I don't want to give you guys too much information about it. But when I started digging into it, when I started looking into it, I was like, man, there is so much show going on here versus the things that are going on in the background. And all of the stuff that led up to this situation, some of it was some of it was the massive tariffs and some of it was all of that. But the rest of this stuff, nobody was talking, the stuff I just mentioned, nobody's talking about that. Like people in the defense sector, like if you go to defense news or whatever, they're talking about it. But nobody else is really talking about a lot of the things that are behind the scenes in public policy. And I just, the thing that I'm doing the show on, and I think it'll release Sunday, guys. Keep an eye out for it. It'll release on Sunday, and it is a banger. It is absolutely worth it. But I literally looked at it and I was like, how much of this is just show? How much of this is just they're trying to rile us up? They're trying to say China bad, US good, or US bad, China bad. How much of this are they manipulating all of us? Because what I learned, it's not secret. I didn't learn anything secret. It's out in the open. But it kind of blew my mind. And I've been doing this a while.
Yeah.
So I do think a lot of this is flat out manipulation, and it's just flat out theater.
Yeah. Here is what I need you to know. Our community, wonderful, inquisitive community, which I love very much, and I mean it when I say that. So, is the idea of what China has embarked on. Of course, China has to think smart, has to think strategically, has to think about its own interest. Every country does that, except that when another country does it, it's bad. When we do it, it's right, which is not, it doesn't make sense. What you need to understand is that this tensions or the restrictions that China puts is also has some sort of geopolitical significance or signal, if I may use the term. Why is this? Is because that's going to give China the upper hand regarding the critical minerals, and that's a way for China to remind not only the United States, but the collective West, for that matter, of that leverage. It's nothing wrong with that. When you come to a negotiating table, you have to come with some strong cards or strong positions. Or strong
absolutely.
hand. If you have no leverage, you better take a step back and reconsider. And this is why, in my opinion, for China to impose these restrictions, which, by the way, enter into effect in December, that's the reason we're designed for the idea of, you know what, we're going to have a leverage here. And that leverage, we're going to try to structure it in a way that will not cause, and I repeat, will not cause some sort of irreversible global exodus from China's processing ecosystem. China will have to think on two fronts. And that's, to me, in my opinion, what the strategy of thinking, politically speaking, from a competent government is all about. We're not talking about just China. Any government that can do that. Except that we don't see that in the West right now. We're seeing it coming. I was in China twice now, thanks to the community for its support for that. And I saw. And again, the reason why I wanted to be on the ground so I can report to the community what I'm seeing, because what I'm seeing is a reflection of the policies that the government in Beijing embarked on. And that's my thinking about this tensions now regarding the rare earth, is that China wanted to secure that upper hand, but without causing a reversible change into its processing ecosystem, because China processes a lot of rare earth minerals. As a matter of fact, over 90%. So think about it, guys. That's the only, you have to think. You have to, when I say you, I'm referring to this government in this case. You have to think strategically. You can't just look for, as they say, you can't look at the end of your nose. You have to look very far. Chinese tends to think, and this is why the speech by Besant, the one you shared, Elizabeth, the one that he's mentioning about the state control economy. Well, it's managed by the government because there is a reason. And you know what? The reason that I found also when I was there, and I asked, you know that the billionaires and millionaires in China have no say inside the economy of what the government does. Look for us. Just look how much the millionaires and billionaires are in deciding on the language in the bill in Congress.
Right.
To their favor, not to the favor of average citizen. And that's where the difference. This is why I said last time, there is now a debate quiet here inside the US. And you know what the debate about? Is about the system itself. It's quiet. You don't hear much about it. Media won't talk about it because it's only within certain circles. And I had a chance to talk to one about this one here. there is no questions about the efficacy, the competency of the system we have.
Well, David, it's interesting that you bring that up. I think we did, we talked about this a while ago, but the documentary that you and I both watched is called Money Masters. It's an
Oh man,
old
that's,
documentary. I think it's from the 90s. I think it's 1997 or something.
wow, that's
And
something.
it looks like it's from 1997, but the information in it is absolutely stellar. But basically what it talked about, and this is accurate as far as I can tell, is that the central banks, more or less, the US government tried to keep them out, and then finally we have the Federal Reserve, right? And one of the things about China is that they do have a centrally planned economy. Now, they call it communist, but if you look at their economics, it's actually not communist economics. It's in a sense a combination of capitalist economics with a little bit of a communist label on it, right? It's in the sense that their government can step in to an industry that isn't doing well, or to companies that are critical. Their government can actually step in, whereas in the United States, it's the opposite. The companies control the United States, and it's the government that's sort of in the back seat. The problem with that is that corporate interests are beholden to their shareholders and legally beholden to their shareholders. They cannot be beholden to their customers. They cannot legally put their customers or their employees first. They must legally put their shareholders first. So that means that everyone who is a customer or an employee of that company is second, third, fourth tier, which means that they will do the thing that will bring the most profit to the shareholder, regardless of the consequence to everybody else. And fundamentally, that's led to the system that we have right now. And China, and like I said, this drives me bananas, because I want the United States to succeed and do well. We live here. I love this country. But you must be honest about where it is failing. And right now, that is everywhere. And if you look online, there's so many, I don't know if they're bots, I don't know if they're real people, I don't know what they are, but they're like, no, America's doing amazing. It's doing amazing. You cannot tell me that is the case when people are crowdfunding groceries. You cannot tell me that, oh, it's just inflation's only at 2% ish, but that excludes food and electricity. If you can't eat, what do you got? It doesn't matter if your freaking lamp is 2% inflation if you can't eat. So you can't tell me the United States is doing well. You cannot convince me of that. I have eyes, I can see. And so one of the things that China has done really well is having this centrally planned economy. The Central Bank of China is owned by the government, whereas the Federal Reserve here in the United States, we don't know who owns it. It's private. We have no idea who owns the Fed. And we talk about it like it is a government's own central bank, but you can see the rift between Powell and Donald Trump, and no, that's not true.
That's true.
So we have an economy that's all over the place because we don't actually have a centrally planned economy.
And the difference that I realized my last trip, after also I had conversations with people, I'm not going, I didn't go there for tourism. If I want to go tourism, I go on my own. I asked, and the conclusion that I came up with, and this is my own conclusion based on the facts of what I saw, is that the government is working for the people. That is the only way I could explain why people are so content, why people are so happy. When I walk in Nanjing Street, and all along from the end of the street all the way to the bund, it's a long walk, and everybody you see, it's so content. So I asked people that I can converse with, and they speak English, and it's like, it's not like a secret. They say they just content, they live in their daily life, no issues, nothing, and the government doing what it's supposed to do. So, and I say, is this why they don't talk about politics? Because they're afraid? He said, no, it's not they're afraid. It's domain they don't understand very well. They live in it to people in charge. And the people in charge, that's their responsibility to serve those people. Look what they just did to the former Minister of Agriculture who was caught in bribery of $26 million.
Mm-hmm.
Death penalty with the 2-year
Yeah.
reprieve. Non-negotiable. And that's the right way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's common sense. And all you say is, all you think about is that the average person is not going to know about something like this. That becomes the responsibility of the government to ensure. Why? Because that former minister or whomever in the government, it's not about becoming rich. It's about serving the people. That notion doesn't exist for us here. And that is, again,
Right.
takes me back to that point, Elizabeth, earlier about the conversation regarding the system here.
Absolutely.
That is starting to be. Whether that conversation is going to emerge to the surface, I have my doubts.
It had better.
It's
it
the
had better.
the media is controlled here. So
Yeah.
we want to say thank you to Juan before we sign off here.
Oh,
and
thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll answer if there is a question or two, but I want to say thank you to Jane. Juan, thank you so much for your super sticker. So let me see if there, by the way, if there's any question, we'll answer one or two.
Yeah.
One thing, Elizabeth, Ramples01 asked if you could show the dogs. I say maybe next time.
Oh, I'll put maybe a picture of them in the community. They're rescues. Both of them are rescues. They both came from, they came from the street, and they're my babies. They're very special to me. I'm a big dog person. I also like cats. This has nothing to do with China rare earth. But I really like animals. I'm a really big fan of animals. I'm a fan of rescuing animals. It's a big thing for me.
Well, just to wrap this up regarding this, one thing that I need you two guys understand, it's what lies ahead. What lies ahead? It's because to the Chinese is going to approach it from a very different aspect. Mm-hmm. This tit for tat, China is not considering this tit for tat. Those are strategies they put in place. And to those who had a chance to read Sun Tzu book, what is one of the famous things is, when you realize your enemy is making a mistake, let him. Mm-hmm. That's all. That's all how Chinese approaching this. On our part, is the failure is accumulating. This administration is no different than the one before it. And the one before it is no different than the one before it. And that's when you realize the system is flawed. The system is, and I'm going to use a very, very descriptive word, and that word is rotten.
I agree. I agree.
So I don't hold back. It's because I am witnessing, I'm seeing what's going on. I had a chance to travel around the world, and I saw with my own eyes. And this is one thing you need to understand about this rare earth, where things are headed, and how this might end up impacting you one way or another, because it will.
It for sure will. It for sure will.
All of us, no exceptions.
I will say that if the rare earths, if China doing this prevents a hot war,
that's a good thing.
I am happy for the prevention of a hot war, no matter what, because that was one of the most sickening things. I mean, wars. I have not been to war. David, you have. My husband has. And from all accounts, it is the worst kind of hell that there is. And so I think it is wise to avoid war at all costs. All right, David, you want to answer this one? You want to laugh
first, which one and is then it?
Answer
I didn't
this?
see.
It is Army with Harmony. Hello, it's nice to see you. When is the government going to open again?
It's not a laughing matter, because it's impacting people's. Some people have not been paid. Some people have not. I know the military has been. It was an order to keep the pay. I remember when I was back in my days in DC, and we had something similar to this. I was overseas at that time, and we get the word, you don't have to worry about shutdown. Doesn't apply to you. It's when it's going to open. I don't know. It's they playing, meaning members of Congress and the White House. They all corrupted in it. They playing with the livelihood of the average citizen. What a shame.
That's my issue.
What a shame. What a shame of so-called representatives. So this is, again, when you start to ask the question about, is the system competent enough to ensure that an average citizen has dinner, has whatever. So shame for Americans to retire and have no money.
Okay. You want to hear
Shame.
my conspiracy
Sure,
theory?
sure.
Okay. It's my conspiracy theory. If you guys have been around a while, I think, I mean, every good conspiracy theorist thinks they're
Yeah,
telling the truth. What do you get? What can you implement when people cannot afford basics? You can implement UBI.
yeah.
You can implement universal basic income. And UBI controls a population probably better than just about anything else.
Yeah.
UBI, of course, is not going to be handed out in dollar bills. It's going to be handed out in something like US stable coins or whatever it is, some account that's run by the Fed, whatever. But a population, the US population has been really against universal basic income, has been really against CBDC. If you notice, Europe was like, oh, that's fine. Central bank digital currency, no big deal. But the US has been fighting it, which I think is absolutely the right thing to do. Okay. That's my personal opinion. I'm just a girl in the world. It's my personal opinion. But I think UBI is a bad deal because of the level of control that it's going to allow the government to have. Right. Yeah. But when people cannot afford basics, what are they going to be more open to having? Yeah. Universal basic income. Government, when they were looking at the budget at where they could stop sending money, they always look to the average person. David, you just said it. They're not looking at where else they can pull money from. Yeah. And with all of the Doge cutbacks and all of that, we still have this. With all of the tariffs, we still have this.
That's true.
So it is, I believe personally, intentionally to undercut the human capital of the United States.
Yeah. And this is one of the also regarding the financial aspect why if you noticed the last 8 months or so, what was China doing? Selling US treasuries, the debts, because also relies in the US dollars.
The show that I'm about to do, that I'm going to release on Sunday,
touches on that.
That may not be true.
Okay, we'll see.
That's why it blew my mind, is because I was certain that was true. That's what all the media is saying. I was certain it was true. And like I said, I didn't stumble on anything secret. Like this is all public knowledge. You can literally just go look it up.
Yeah.
But what I stumbled upon, I don't know if that's true or not anymore. And that would be a big deal if it wasn't.
Okay. I can get an answer for that.
Yeah, you can watch the show ahead of everybody else.
I will do that, but I know someone I can reach out to, and I'll find that out. So
I'll get, because you're I'll give you like a heads up. But like I said, I didn't find anything secret. None of this is like secret or classified in literally any way. You want to know something that continuously surprises me is how much of this is just literally out in the open. It's just because it's not publicized, nobody's paying attention to it, or because it's complex, nobody's paying attention to it. I was like, none of this is secret. All of this is just out there. It's just if you don't know what you're looking for or why it matters, you don't know it, and you just listen to whatever the narrative is. So, David, I will share that information with you because I think you'd find it very interesting.
Okay. Well, on that note, we're gonna sign off here, and I don't know. By the way, just to let the community, I don't know if I'm gonna do a live stream tomorrow, but I did receive a comment on the other channel. Someone asked if I can do an analysis about what's going on between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Yeah. Now that's something I am very familiar with. So I'm gonna figure out whether I'll do it or not. But there are two other events that's regarding the West Asia or Middle East, and one of them has to do with Giuliani's visit to Moscow. Makes you just wonder. And usually when in my experience, when you see movements like that, that's something about to happen. So anyway, just if I decide to do it, I will do a live stream for you. So, and to those who did not know, I just came back from overseas. So,
and we're very happy to have you back.
Yeah, it was an interesting visit. So anyway, we look forward to seeing you guys. Maybe tomorrow. If not, we'll see you next week. But before that, remember to subscribe if you have not done so, and hit the like button. I know somebody told me, Elizabeth, that they tried to hit the like and it doesn't go through.
Oh, that's good.
Why is that?
I don't know. I have long suspected that there was something going on the back end of this.
So,
I don't
anyway,
know, but guys, come check our channel. The algorithm does not always send it out. I know that even if you're subscribed, even if you have the bell notification, it doesn't always tell you. So just come check back. We do at least 2 shows a week. So come check back, because we've got some really good stuff coming.
Indeed. Yeah. And remember to watch the video on Sunday. I think Elizabeth's going to release that on Sunday. And we're going to be preparing. Yeah, we're going to be preparing a recorded analysis for you about specific topic. I don't want to get ahead of it, but we will release that for you soon. So we look forward to seeing you next time. Be safe and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.